My wife believed our neighbor's lies and threw me out of the house. But when I showed her what the cameras recorded, she lost everything. I handed her the divorce papers and walked away without a word. I'm standing in my driveway, watching my things being thrown out of the upstairs window one by one. Shirts, shoes, my work bag, even the framed photo from our wedding, shattering on the concrete below. Emily is up there screaming, her voice cutting through the evening air. Get out. You disgust me. Don't you ever come back. Her face is red, twisted with fury, her eyes burning with a hatred I've never seen before. Just this morning we were having coffee together, laughing about the neighbor's dog digging up our garden. And now, in a single afternoon, I've apparently become a liar, a cheater, a monster. Behind her, standing just inside the window, is our neighbor, Tom. He says nothing. Arms crossed, he just watches. When our eyes meet, he gives me that small, smug smirk I've come to hate. It's the same look he gave me a week ago when I asked him to stop dropping by the house so often. The same look that says, I've already won. I try to speak, to tell Emily that it's not true, that whatever she thinks she saw is a lie, but she throws something else out the window. My phone. It lands in the mud with a dull thud, screen cracking on impact. I trusted you, she yells, voice breaking. You and that woman. You made a fool of me. That woman. Whoever she thinks that is, I've never met her in my life. But Emily doesn't care. She's already made up her mind. The neighbor steps closer to her, resting a hand on her shoulder, murmuring something I can't hear. She nods. Her tears turn into fresh rage. And as I stand there, surrounded by my own life scattered across the lawn, a single thought hits me. This wasn't an accident or a misunderstanding. Someone planned this. And I'm starting to realize exactly who Emily and I had been married for 6 years. We weren't perfect, but we were solid. The kind of couple who had inside jokes, matching coffee mugs, and a rhythm that made sense. We fought sometimes, and every couple does, but it never lasted long. I loved her, and for the most part, I truly believed she loved me too. 2 years ago, we bought this house in a quiet neighborhood. It wasn't fancy, but it was ours. We planted rose bushes in the front yard, painted the walls ourselves, and spent weekends binge-watching old sitcoms. It felt safe, familiar, something we'd built together. Then Tom moved in next door. At first, he seemed harmless. He was in his early 40s, lived alone, and introduced himself with a big smile and a handshake that lingered a bit too long. He told us he'd just gone through a rough divorce, that he knew what it was like to lose everything. Emily felt sorry for him. She said he seemed lonely. Tom had this easy charm about him, the kind that feels practiced, like he'd spent years perfecting it. He'd wave every morning, offer to mow our lawn when I was busy, bring over tools when I worked on weekend projects. I didn't mind at first. In fact, I liked the guy. We'd have beers in the driveway, talk about football, complain about taxes, normal neighbor stuff. But then he started showing up when I wasn't around. At first, it was small favors, dropping off mail that had been misdelivered, offering to check the gutters, or bringing over some chili he'd made. Small things, harmless things, except they weren't harmless. Emily would mention him casually. Tom helped me fix the garden hose, or Tom dropped by to bring cookies. Always with that same tone, grateful, friendly, unsuspecting. And I'd laugh it off, but deep down, something in me didn't sit right. One evening I came home early from work and saw his car parked right in front of our house. When I walked inside, he was standing in our kitchen holding a wrench, talking to Emily about a leak under the sink. She smiled when she saw me, but Tom didn't move. He looked at me for a second too long, like he was trying to measure something. Then he said, "Hey man, just helping your wife out. You've got a good one here." It was supposed to be a compliment, but there was something territorial in the way he said it. After that, I started noticing things I couldn't unsee. He'd text Emily directly, just to check if she was home safe. He'd call her M, a nickname only I used. Once, during a barbecue, he joked, "If you ever get tired of this guy, I live right next door." Everyone laughed. Emily rolled her eyes. But I didn't. That night I told her it was crossing a line. She frowned. "You're overreacting." "He's just being friendly." "Friendly doesn't mean invasive," I said. "He's around too much. It's weird." She sighed, clearly annoyed. "Tom's been through a lot, okay? You could be a little more understanding." Understanding. That word stuck with me. Over the next few weeks, Tom's presence only grew stronger. He'd always be outside when Emily came home, ready with a wave or a small gift. When I'd pull into the driveway, I'd see him walking away, glancing back at our house like he owned a piece of it. Then one day, I caught him standing in our front yard, staring at Emily through the living room window. He didn't even flinch when he realized I saw him. He just smiled, lifted his hand in a lazy wave and walked away. That night, I couldn't shake the image. I told Emily again that Tom was getting too close, that he made me uncomfortable. She rolled her eyes. "You're imagining things, Mark. He's just lonely." Maybe she was right. Maybe I was imagining it. But deep down, something darker had already started to take root, something I couldn't yet name. Because while Emily saw a kind, harmless neighbor, I was starting to see a man studying us, and I couldn't have known then, but he wasn't just watching. He was planning. It started with whispers. Emily would come home quiet, distracted. She'd check her phone more often, then lock it the moment I walked into the room. When I asked if something was wrong, she'd force a smile and say she was just tired. At first, I told myself it was stress, work, family, life. But then one night, while she was in the shower, her phone buzzed on the counter. A message lit up the screen. "From Tom. Hope you're okay after what I told you. I didn't want to say anything, but you deserve the truth." My stomach dropped. I didn't open it. I couldn't. But I stood there staring at the words until the screen went dark again. When Emily came out, I asked her what Tom had said. She froze, towel in hand. "Why are you looking at my phone?" "Because he's texting you again. What truth is he talking about?" Her eyes hardened, and for a second I didn't recognize her. "You should know," she said flatly. "You're the one living it. I remember standing there stunned. What are you talking about?" That's when she told me. Tom had come over the night before, when I was on a business trip, and told her he'd seen me with another woman. He said he didn't want to get involved, but he couldn't stand watching her be lied to. According to him, he'd seen someone who looked like me meeting a woman at a park downtown, supposedly on Thursdays. I laughed at first because it was so absurd, but Emily didn't laugh. She pulled up her phone and showed me pictures, blurry, distant, taken from a car maybe. A man who looked a lot like me. Same jacket, same car, standing with a woman outside a cafe. It wasn't me. But in that moment, no amount of logic mattered. "Emily," I said, trying to stay calm, "these could be anyone. You can't even see the guy's face." Her voice cracked. "Tom wouldn't lie." "Why would he lie?" I didn't have an answer, because at that point I didn't understand it either. After that, everything changed. She stopped talking to me except when she had to. She started sleeping in the guest room, saying she needed space. Tom was around more than ever. He'd drop by to check on her, bringing takeout or coffee. Sometimes I'd come home and find them sitting outside together, talking quietly. When I confronted her about it, she snapped, "Don't you dare make this about him. He's been more honest with me than you ever have." Honest. That word hit like a punch. Every time I tried to explain, she'd bring up something new Tom had said, a detail about my supposed affair. Each lie built on the last, until even I couldn't keep track of what she thought I'd done. I started to notice how carefully planned it all was. Tom never accused me directly. He'd plant suggestions instead. I saw someone who looked like him. Or maybe you should ask him about Thursday nights. Always vague. Always enough to make her doubt. It was genius in a sick, manipulative way. One night I came home from work and found Emily standing in the hallway, shaking. In her hand was my old hoodie, one I hadn't worn in months. She said Tom told her he'd seen me wearing it the night I was with her. She insisted on knowing where I'd been. I told her I'd been working late. And she laughed. That bitter, disbelieving laugh that still echoes in my head sometimes. "You think I'm stupid?" "He saw you. He saw you, Mark." The worst part was how convinced she looked. Like she'd built a new reality, and I was the liar trapped inside it. 2 weeks later came the breaking point. I came home to find my things packed in garbage bags by the door. Emily was waiting in the living room, pale and trembling, holding her phone like it was a weapon. "Tom showed me everything," she said. "What everything?" I asked. Her hand shook as she pulled up a picture, this time clear, high resolution. It appeared to be me, or someone who looked very much like me, kissing a woman in a parking lot, my face. My jacket, my car, except it wasn't real. I could see it now. The lighting was off, the angle wrong, the edges slightly blurred where his editing had blended the faces together. "Emily, please," I said quietly. "Look at the shadows. Look at the reflection in the car window. It's fake." But she just shook her head, tears streaming down her face. "Stop lying to me." When I reached out to her, she stepped back like I'd struck her. "Tom said you'd try to manipulate me," she whispered. "That you'd pretend it was all fake. He warned me. That was it. The point of no return. She told me to get out, that she didn't feel safe around me anymore." I remember standing there, frozen, watching her sob into her hands while my life crumbled around us. And behind the curtains of the living room window, I caught a glimpse of Tom's silhouette, watching. I left that night. I packed what I could, stuffed it into the car, and drove to my brother's place. For the next few days, I barely slept. My phone filled with messages from mutual friends, half of them asking if it was true, the other half too polite to say anything. Emily blocked me on everything. Tom apparently had been helping her handle things. The worst part wasn't losing my wife. It was realizing how easily someone could twist reality when they knew exactly which strings to pull. Every photo, every lie, every look he gave me. It all started to make sense. He wasn't doing this out of malice. He was doing it because he wanted her. He wanted my wife, my home, my life. And he'd done it so perfectly that I couldn't even fight back, at least, not yet. The truth didn't come from Emily. It came from a stranger. 3 weeks after she threw me out, I got a call from the security company that handled our home's camera system. Apparently, they were doing a routine cloud storage cleanup and noticed something strange. Motion alerts in the backyard, always around midnight. They asked if I wanted the archived footage. At first, I almost deleted the email without opening it. I didn't want to see that house again, even through a lens. But something in me, anger, desperation, maybe both, made me click the link. And there he was. Tom, climbing over my fence like a thief, flashlight in hand. He wasn't sneaking around for valuables. He was aiming his phone straight through our kitchen window. He did it night after night. Sometimes he stood there for minutes, just watching. Once I saw him reach up and touch the glass, leaving a smear of his fingerprints behind. My stomach turned. I sent the clips to my lawyer, who immediately forwarded them to the police. They took it seriously, probably because, as it turned out, Tom already had a record. A few years earlier, he'd been charged with stalking a woman in another state. The charges had been dropped, but the pattern was there. That was when the pieces started falling into place. A search warrant on his house turned up a nightmare. Dozens of photos of Emily, some taken from our yard, some clearly stolen from her social media, and some that were edited. Her face was apparently photoshopped into compromising positions, and next to them, hundreds of images of me cut, copied, and pasted into fake scenes that matched the evidence he'd shown her. But it got worse. On his computer, they found drafts of messages, ones he'd sent Emily from fake numbers, pretending to be the other woman. He'd written them himself. Every detail he'd warned her about, every lie she believed, came straight from him. He wasn't trying to expose an affair. He was trying to erase me. When the police told me that, I didn't even feel anger anymore. Just emptiness. Everything he'd done, all the manipulation, the whispers, the late-night photo, it was never random. He wanted my wife, and he was sick enough to think destroying our marriage would make her his. 2 days later, I got a call from Emily. Her voice was shaking. They told me what he did, she said. The police came. They showed me the pictures. The videos. I didn't say anything. I didn't know, she whispered. Oh my God, Mark, I didn't know. I wanted to believe her. Part of me still did. But the larger part, the one that had watched her choose a stranger's word over mine, stayed silent. She asked to meet. I agreed. We met at a small cafe near downtown, neutral ground. She looked awful, pale, drained. Her hands trembled when she reached for her coffee. I can't believe I let him do this, she said, tears filling her eyes. He said you'd hurt me if I didn't listen. He said he was protecting me. I slid a thick envelope across the table. She opened it. Divorce papers, Mark. Please, she started, voice breaking. I made a mistake. I'll do anything. I cut her off. You didn't make a mistake, I said quietly. You made a choice. For a long moment she just sat there staring at the papers. Then she whispered almost to herself, "He destroyed everything." I shook my head. "No," I said. "You did." The moment you believed him, her tears came faster, her shoulders shaking, the cafe's hum fading into background noise. For months Tom had poisoned her mind. But she had poured the cup and drank it willingly. As I stood to leave, she reached for my hand. "Mark, please." I didn't know who he was. I looked down at her and said the last words I ever spoke to my wife. Neither did I. Tom was arrested a week later. The charges were serious. Stalking, harassment, identity fraud, and unlawful entry. When the story hit the local news, neighbors stopped calling him the friendly guy next door. They called him what he really was, a predator. During the investigation, more came out. There were messages to other women in the neighborhood, photos, even a diary file on his laptop where he'd written things like, "She's finally believing me," and, "Once he's gone, she'll see I'm the one who truly loves her." Reading that line made my skin crawl. Emily gave a full statement. She cooperated with the police, though that didn't erase the fact that she'd trusted him more than me. The last time I saw her was in court. She didn't look at me when she walked in, not out of anger, but out of shame. When the judge signed the divorce decree, I felt nothing, no joy, no satisfaction, just a hollow sense of finality. 6 years of marriage gone in a pile of legal papers and a man's obsession. She lost the house. It was in my name before we married. Her family turned distant. Most of her friends disappeared after the truth came out. I heard she moved into a small apartment across town, working double shifts just to cover rent. Sometimes I think about her, not with hate but with sadness, because she wasn't the only victim. She was another piece in Tom's twisted game. As for me, I stayed with my brother for a while before moving back into the house. At first, every corner reminded me of what happened. The kitchen window where Tom had stood, the living room where Emily screamed. But with time, the echoes faded. I repainted the walls, replaced the curtains, removed every trace of what came before. Now when I step outside at night, the yard is quiet again. No shadows at the window. No eyes watching from next door. Just silence, and a kind of peace I never thought I'd feel again. People like Tom don't just destroy marriages. They study them, find the cracks, and push until everything breaks. But what still haunts me isn't how far he went. It's how easy it was for someone I loved to believe him. I used to think love was built on trust. Now I know better. Love without truth isn't trust. It's blindness. And blind love, no matter how pure it feels, always ends up destroying itself.